Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If you will, please take your seats and turn off your cell phones or turn them on silent at this time, if you will. I want to welcome everybody to the July City Council meeting for Russellville, Arkansas. And I want to just say that, can you believe this weather, middle of July, and we're having 70-degree weather. It's fantastic.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Either way, I'm glad of it. So, if you'll stand with me and join with me for a few minutes and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. You bow with me. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and the blessings of life. We thank you for the cool weather and all of the things that we share each day as we go about our daily lives. We do appreciate all of the blessings that you have bestowed upon us. Watch over our servicemen and women and all of those who are in harm's way, whether here or overseas. Guide us and direct us. Give us wisdom as you would have us to make the proper decisions that we should as a council. For all of these things, I ask in Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do I hear a
motion to approve the minutes, Your Honor?
Very good.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion to approve the minutes say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? At this time, I'm going to make a executive decision here, and we're going to change the order of this agenda, and I'm going to ask that Chief Cochran come forward and give his report at this time, and then I will take his place on the agenda subsequently.
Quick mid-year summary of where we are with the fire department and our operations and so forth. I want to look at some of the data that we have to present to you tonight. I'm glad to say that our call volume, though it's still high, is a little less than what it has been in recent years. As you can see on the data there, the number of fires we've had 25 structure fires so far in the city. When I say structure fires, we've had many other fires inside of structures, but when we have contents in the structure itself burning, that's usually what we define as a true structure fire. You can see through there vehicle, brush, rubbish, outside storage, and other types of fires. The vast majority of our incidents, as it has been in several years, is rescue and medical assist. So far this year, as of the end of June, we've made 729 runs. Hazardous conditions, which does not include fire. Hazardous conditions is things such as fuel leaks, reported incidents where there may be some kind of hazardous material involved, but not exclusively hazardous material. So under the National Fire Incident Reporting System, all those come under that heading there. Miscellaneous calls and false alarms and so forth. I'm also glad to say that so far this year, knock on wood, we have had a smaller dollar amount due to fire loss this year than we have in previous years. You can see there, year to date, we've had only had a total dollar loss of $702,000. Sometime last year, about this time of the year, we had well in excess of $1 million, approaching $1.5 million to $2 million. And that's partly because we've been fortunate that we have not had any major industrial fires so far this year that has drove that dollar loss up. Under training, our department over the past 6-7 years has more than doubled in the hours of training and the scope of training. And you can see there the members of the department have had, we've logged over 10,000 hours of training so far this year. You can see there the broad headings of the types of training that we do. Of course, the fire suppression, we do EMT and paramedic training and refresher, vehicle extrication and industrial rescue, rope rescue, and here recently we also conducted water rescue that we've been doing now for the past 2 or 3 years. We've had an increased number of emergency rescue calls due to flooding and so forth inside the city. Also, you can see there we've also logged a number of hours in physical fitness. Every shift, every day, every firefighter is given the opportunity to log in at least an hour and a half, 2 hours of training on their own. I'll expand on that topic just here in just a moment, something we're working on later in this year. Under fire prevention, what we call the 3 E's, education, enforcement, and engineering. You can see that we've logged a number of hours under fire inspections, public education, investigating fire incidents. We also do the plans check and inspect fire protection systems, those being things like sprinkler systems, standpipe systems, fire alarm systems, and so forth. Also, we work in concert with the building official to do a plans review on all new construction to ensure the building code and the fire code are in compliant. Burn permits. So far, we've logged over 1,800 burn permits this year. Most of those being residential burn permits that we're most familiar with. We also issue commercial burn permits if there's a large development where it needs to be cleared of debris and rubbish and so forth. We also issue permits for those as well. And then we've inspected the actual number there under fire hydrants is supposed to be over 1,000. It shows 882, but it's really actually over 1,000 fire hydrants have been inspected so far this year. As part of our fire insurance rating, we inspect fire hydrants, every fire hydrant in the city of Russellville twice a year. We do it in the spring, we do it in the fall. The fire companies go out in their fire management areas and they inspect those hydrants. If you look on the right, that is our staffing, shift staffing per shift. We have budgeted 17 positions per shift. We have a minimum staffing of 14. That maintains 3 firefighters for each engine company in the 4 stations in the city, a battalion chief, and a driver for the aerial truck. If we have more than 14, the aerial truck is staffed up with 2 or 3 additional firefighters. That's just per shift. And then we have 6 uniform staff positions that work days, a total staffing of 56 uniform personnel, 1 civilian. On the left of that, there was some bullets about the budget. So far, our budget is within what we anticipate every year this time of year. As always, it's almost every year some of our challenges are overtime costs due to unforeseen long-term illness or injuries, usually non-duty related. And then also the increased cost of maintaining fire apparatus. Though we have a fairly new fleet, about 1/3 of our fleet is less than 5 years old. That remaining fleet, staff cars as well as heavy apparatus, it's just very costly. It's very technical type of equipment that we have to maintain. This is a kind of a quick glimpse at our budget. Everything is in line. We do have some shortfalls under civil service, and that was because we had an unanticipated increase in the number of people wanting to take the test for promotion this year. Average about 10 a year. This year it was double that. Some of the things we're currently working on and we will be working on later this year. Our fire insurance rating, we're Class 3 city. That's about average for a city of our size in the southern United States. The last time they were here, you may recall, was in 2012. Since then, they've revised the grading schedule. That is the document that they use to apply to municipalities to evaluate fire protection. We are currently looking at that revised schedule and identifying those areas that we need to strengthen up on in the coming years in anticipation for the next review by ISO. They're back up to strength now. For about 20, 25 years, they were not scheduled to survey a city our size, but every 10 to 15 years, they're now back to 3 years. So we can anticipate them in the next 2 or 3 years to be back in our community. We will, I should say, shortly be reviewing our current rules and regulations and our standard operating procedures. It's been some years since we've really gone through and purged those regulations, and that will be happening later this summer. Another thing that we're looking at that we haven't done yet this year, but we would anticipate, is review the current written agreement between City Corporation and the Fire Department in terms of the placement of fire hydrants and fire flow requirements, water main sizes and flows and pressures and so forth. The last time it was revised was in 2006. It's about a 25-year document, but it's been that long since we've reviewed and updated. I mentioned physical fitness earlier. It's a really important topic to us, me in particular. We are in the process of reviewing some national guidelines and standards, and probably going to be expanding and improving our fitness program for our firefighters. The number one killer of firefighters in the line of duty is no longer burning buildings and things, but it's dying of heart attack and stroke and that sort of thing. We have completed revising the Fire Service Annex section of the Polk County Emergency Operations Plan. That plan has a number of tabs, if you will, or annexes. Fire Service and Hazardous Material are the two that my department's responsible for. We've recently reviewed and revised that annex to meet today's needs. I mentioned last year that as part of our insurance review, fire insurance review, we needed to do a comprehensive review of our conflagration district, or fire district, or better known as the downtown district. Those properties that are adjoining each other, they're attached, those are high potential for conflagration. We are in the process of taking block by block and going through those locations to assess what our needs are and how we would operate in case of an emergency, fire type emergency in the district. In concert with that, we are getting ready to launch a citywide pre-fire plan program. Again, it's part of our fire insurance rating review, and that will be hopefully launched here again before the end of the summer. And we're also currently on the drawing board, though it's a number of years out. We are on the drawing board right now to start to line up and draw up the specifications for the next generation of pumper apparatus. The goal is to cut the cost of those down by a third or half of what the current trend is. Current pumper apparatus is around $350,000 to $450,000, and it's my goal to try to use new technologies, new concepts, and try to get that cost way down so we can have a more reliable fleet in the future. Mayor, members of the council, that's all I have. I'll entertain any questions if you have any.
Anyone?
Thank you, Chief Cochran. Good report.
Mr. McCoy?
Have the finance report for June. General fund revenues were $900,659,011, 0.63% below our projections, so we're right on target, pretty good. Sales tax receipts were $697,459. Franchise fees and permits were $80,103. Total expenditures in the general fund was $899,689, 1.27 below our year-to-date projections. We've received $55,090 more year-to-date than expended. Street funds, operations receipts were $137,485, 1.5% above our projection. Sales tax receipts were $95,981. That's almost 6% above our projection. And our new half-cent sales tax was $42,559. Street tax expenditures, $146,663. It's 1.25% above our projection. Sales tax expenditures were $331,243. We had no capital expenditures. Economic development revenues were $10,684. $7,560 was the new sales tax. $3,304 was interest. We had an expenditure of $22,500 for the alliance payment. Capital assets revenues were $657,760. $1,061 was interest. $516,705 was our new sales tax. $140,000 was the general fund transfer for capital expenditures. Expenditures were $37,278. $28,456 for parks, $6,822 for the police station, and $2,000 for the airport. That's the report for June. Is there any questions?
Any questions? Thank you, Mr. McCoy. Okay. I'm going to give you an update on the downtown master plan. And as part of this update on the Russellville master plan, I've got to reflect on why we have such a plan and how we have managed to get to this point in its implementation. Main Street Organization is an organization that the city supports as a downtown revitalization group with an advisory board. We entrust that organization and its subcommittees to carry out the things under their umbrella of responsibility. They, as with the city's Planning Commission, Civil Service Commission, Recreation Parks Commission, Airport Commission, and others, are appointed to those organizations because of background, expertise, vocation, interest, and a desire to serve. The City Council has the responsibility to take action upon their recommendations, and it should be obvious that the City Council, regardless of its interest and its desire to direct and impact those recommendations, does not have the physical capacity to be involved in all aspects of each of those areas of responsibility for the city, and therefore assumes some level of trust regarding the intentions and efforts of those who serve on those commissions and boards, so as not to render them ineffective. This is a follow-up update regarding this plan after Ms. Betsy McGuire's update in December of 2013 to the council, and then Mr. John Harris spoke in February of this year as a late agenda item relative to the crosswalks and bulb-out project on Main Street. Likewise, in February, Mr. Dan Burden, co-founder of Walkable and Livable Communities Institute, spoke here and gave an update regarding a walking evaluation he made of our historic district. Looking back in regard to this, in August 20th of 2009, the City Council adopted Resolution 1114 that authorized Main Street, Russellville, to develop a downtown master plan and present it to the City Council for acceptance. With the economy in the slump that occurred and then Main Street funds becoming low, Main Street Russellville delayed their request for proposal until 2011. Work commenced shortly thereafter to get a plan produced, and the Walker Collaborative, along with a team of consultants, entered a contract agreement, made a comprehensive study over several months, and presented it to the council, which accepted it by Resolution 1327 on December 20th, 2012. Much earlier than that, however, the interest of Main Street Russellville and other citizens began to take shape, and it became obvious that if they truly had a concern for the historic interests of downtown and preservation of buildings at the city's center, a historic district commission should be established. It was established by Ordinance 2011 in February of 2008, and Ordinance 2023 in June of 2008 established a local historic district and further elaborated on the responsibilities and authority of the commission. Later, in February of 2009, Ordinance 2048 changed the number of members of the commission from 9 to 7. Next slide, please. Now, the purpose of this master plan is to create a comprehensive strategy to revitalize the city's historic downtown and the El Paso Avenue corridor linking downtown and Arkansas Tech. The plan included those two main items, along with recommendations for the following: Depot Plaza improvements, proposed Ozark Interpretive Center, proposed Prairie Creek Park East, a potential parking garages, Courthouse Pocket Plaza. There were other strategies mentioned also, and they include rehabilitating historic buildings, infill development on vacant lots and buildings, improve zoning and things associated with zoning, and develop a downtown library, and develop and adopt financial incentives for the downtown area. Main Street Russellville is the most critical entity for downtown revitalization and implementation, and they follow a four-point approach, which includes, and if you will go to the next slide, please. Those 4 points include organization, design, economic restructuring, and promotion. The Public Works Department was given responsibility to implement the master street portion of the plan over time, and the implementation matrix for this master plan was included to facilitate that for all involved parties. Next slide, please. Points in this plan to consider regarding downtown revitalization were noted as follows. 1, the availability of downtown parking. And it stated in this plan that it is not critical presently, but it will be so once a lot of revitalization begins. Secondly, public space is extremely important but lacking downtown. Thirdly, Prairie Creek adaptation through the downtown area was recommended, and the city is currently partnered with the Corps of Engineers in a 205 plan drainage project, which may coincide with the master plan. Fourth, an interpretive center was identified and associated with the U.S. Forest Service and proposed as a large passive and recreational area to the east of the Pope County Courthouse. This proposal is likely to change to some other facility within the same basic scope as a public facility or space, such as a Veterans Memorial Park. From an economic and marketable standpoint, the vacant first floor space downtown is significant in that it sometimes gives the perception of lack of activity. And 6, truck traffic downtown was also identified as a negative factor identified by businesses that were surveyed during the development of this plan. Relative to truck traffic downtown that was mentioned, the east side north to south arterial project in the city's capital improvement plan is a plan that has been identified to improve this negative for downtown, which includes making Weir Road and its extension a north-south truck route and another overpass over the railroad. Coordinating discussions have been made with District 8 of the Arkansas Highway and Transportation Department, and they are favorable to this plan, and it possibly could result in a partnership for its construction. Parking, mentioned as not critical during the plan development, has become obviously critical with the new restaurant and other developments downtown, plus existing business growth that has occurred. Although some might say this is a problem, it is a good problem to have and also indicates that the plan is working. Additional parking, as identified, should be added within a 5-minute walk of the Main Street Commerce intersection if it is to be truly useful. Next slide, please. Mobility and streets are parts of this overall plan. And the intention of that is to make our streets more pedestrian safe and friendly, increase street parking and make parking safer, increase the visual quality of our streets as well. As I mentioned, El Paso Avenue is a critical link between Arkansas Tech and downtown, primarily because of the marketing support the university can lend downtown, and should include alternate modes of transportation such as walking, jogging, cycling, and it is currently nearing completion at this time. Despite Arkansas Tech's growth, particularly in the last 10 years, downtown has seen only limited benefits from the university market. Students are an important retail market segment, but also a housing marketing segment. Improving access to downtown aids the growth that will come here. Public realm improvements such as streetscape redevelopments, which was done with the Bulb Out project and crossing, generally precede private development. They tend to stimulate improvements such as building enhancements and rehabilitation. Professional guidance is focused initially on physical improvements prior to getting the marketing stage going. Right now, parking and Depot Park improvements are the two most needed capital improvement projects for historic downtown and Main Street, Russellville. And this current slide depicts what was in the plan regarding the Depot Park area. There are some items in the implementation matrix incumbent on the city that need resolution by the council to move them forward. Under building and facilities on that matrix A3, and I will cover the complete matrix in a moment. Under A3, it says develop an aquatic center. One place it identified in the plan was to consider the vicinity of North El Paso and West Parkway. A6 in that matrix was to build a downtown parking garage. Shared responsibility of city and county was noted. Both city and county passed a resolution, the city's being number 1407 on May the 15th of this year, agreeing to move forward with planning of the facility after the Polk County Law Library wholeheartedly agreed to fund the project planning study with an expectation of reimbursement if the plan goes forward. The sidewalks on Arkansas Avenue and streetscapes and City Mall sidewalk are projects that are identified in our capital improvement plan and are needed to complement the downtown enhancements and should be funded soon. Delaying these are only having a negative impact on this master plan and the city's capital improvement plan. This plan is, This plan is and must be flexible, and it is vitally relevant to how to build financially valuable streets and revitalize a core downtown area. To quote the Conway Area Chamber of Commerce president and CEO at a very recent downtown revitalization meeting in Hot Springs, he said, quote, "If you wait for everybody to agree on your proposals, it will never happen." And I say this from a personal standpoint, this next statement. The owners of decaying properties downtown must either develop them or put them on the market at a reasonable price so others out here with the will and capital can bring them to life. There has to be the community and political will to make that work. However, there is a tendency for some of us to be a little less moved by the factual features of our plans and projections and more concerned about the emotional benefits of it. And that concludes my report, except for coverage of the implementation matrix. If you'll put matrix up there, A. A1, rehabilitate various historic buildings, which was responsible party was property owners, year one. Following properties have been purchased and are rehabbed. 108 North Commerce, 311, 313, 315 West B Street, 116 North Commerce, 118 North Commerce, and 104 to 106 North Commerce, and 310 West Main. The second one was develop a new downtown library, the county's responsibility. Library staff and board have been working on this, and they're waiting on 501c3 status presently and working on the following plans for public survey, public services, building facilities, technology, advocacy, marketing, and fundraising. Develop housing in the El Paso Avenue corridor. Those are developers and Arkansas Tech University. That will come after the El Paso corridor construction is complete. Develop an aquatic center. Consider sites on northwest corner of Parkway and El Paso, as I mentioned earlier. That is a city responsibility, and that is ongoing. We have a committee that has been meeting and making recommendations in regard to that. Develop infill buildings on vacant lots. That is something that needs to occur, and I made my statement in regard to what needs to be done with the properties downtown, and that goes along with the areas that need infill. Build a downtown parking garage. That was identified to go behind the courthouse on the southeast corner of 2nd and Boulder. That's a city-county joint responsibility, and as I mentioned, Resolution 1407 was passed by the city dealing with that to go forward. Develop the Ozark Interpretation Center. That is incumbent upon the U.S. Forest Service. Likely that responsibility may change, and it could become a local Veterans Coalition site for recommendation for a Veterans Memorial. Implementation Matrix B, please. Enhancement of Main Street. That's a city responsibility. The streetscape on Main Street and the Boabout project has been completed. There are plannings for additional improvements on Main Street in the future. B2 is an El Paso enhancement, and as I mentioned earlier, that's a city responsibility, and it's close to completion. Develop park as part of a new downtown library, and there are alternative sites that were identified in the plan, and that's a county responsibility, and that is currently being studied and recommendations proposed at this time. The parking lots That is a lot responsibility for the various organizations and businesses that have them downtown. That needs some consideration going forward. And then develop a courthouse pocket plaza, much like the Burris Memorial Plaza downtown, and expand that. That is under the county's purview. B6 is developing a Prairie Creek Greenway, trails and interpretive waysides and so forth. Right now, we have a Corps of Engineers project that we have entered into. It's a 205 drainage project, and we've asked them to consider the trails and the greenway in this, and hope and anticipate that that will coincide with this master plan. Depot Plaza, trailhead, and other things, relocation of the caboose and whatnot. And that's a city and Main Street responsibility. Conceptual plans have been developed for the Depot Park, and it does consider the possibility of relocating the caboose as recommended in the plan. Athletic playing fields, that was in the same vicinity as mentioned where the aquatic center might possibly go. There has nothing been done in regard to that at this time. And then the Prairie Creek Park East, an amphitheater, which is also part of what was considered for the interpretive center with the Forest Service Department. And then create gateway treatments around the city as to identify it and the downtown area. Gateways still are in Main Street's 2014 work plan, and they have had recent discussions in regard to that. If you will go to number C. Pursuing business retention and recruitment. Main Street Russellville responsibility. New downtown businesses that have been brought forward are Kitchen Crazy, Sudi's, Gallery 307, Fat Daddy's, Penny University Coffee, The Crossing, Lavish, Funky Junkie, Lemley House Art Guild, B.N. Bauman Photography, and there are others to come. Adopt marketing themes and branding, possible railroad heritage, College Town, Ozark Crossroads. Main Street Russellville has been involved with that, and they have obtained a new logo for the downtown area, debuted last fall, and banners have also been installed in the historic district relative to that. Adopting and implementing a program for building revitalization, loan guarantees, and so on that way, a city responsibility in concert with Main Street Russellville. There are funds from an Arkansas Heritage Resource Grant that enable Main Street Russellville to create a matching fund mini-grant program and building rehabilitation grant program. These have resulted in several completed rehab projects and more are on the way. Adopting and implementing this plan's marketing and promotion strategy. Main Street Russellville responsibility again. Monthly merchant mingle programs have resulted in coordinating holiday planning and special events downtown. Examples of those things are this year's Winter Wonderland holiday light display is moving from Pleasant View Park to the downtown area. And the Music Downtown Summer Concert has already been started and is in its second year this year. And then pursue a family entertainment concept, entertainment center and venues and dining downtown, Main Street, Russellville. I think the recent success in opening new stores and restaurants has begun to open the eyes of developers as we're seeing that there are many possible uses for the downtown properties. Number D, or item D, adjust the zoning for downtown and the El Paso corridor, amend and supplement or rewrite, a city responsibility. A review of zones C1, C2, and C4 uses permitted in downtown is underway by City Planner Harris, and presentations to Historic District Commission, Planning Commission, and Council are scheduled and will occur between August and September of this year. D2, improve downtown historic district zoning and expand district, adopting guidelines and improving the processes. The same comments are referred, as was mentioned before, on D1 for zoning. Plus, review considering amending zoning maps that will start in September through October of this year. And then utilizing the city's existing building codes to make them as flexible for usage as possible. It is in use and as appropriate in regarding building rehabilitation and revitalization downtown. Same thing regarding existing local funding programs and promoting all programs. The city and Main Street share responsibility for that. It is in use and as appropriate in regard to building rehab and revitalization. And then establishing a plan implementation committee with staffing that must meet regularly. That does occur with Main Street, Russellville, and with city involvement. Downtown Master Plan Steering Committee, which was a subcommittee of Main Street, Russellville, became the implementation committee with a number of new volunteers that have been included on that who have joined the board of Main Street, Russellville. And then promoting this plan and using Main Street website, plan summary documents, and presentations. A Main Street responsibility, and they are utilizing new outlets as well as civic speakers for civic clubs in Russellville at this time. And then we were to formally adopt this plan, and the City Council should pass a resolution, which it did on December the 20th of 2012, which was resolution number 1327. Upgrading water lines downtown and issuance of water pressure with issues of water pressure deficiencies for firefighting. City Corp is working on this at this time. They're working on sewer line considerations in conjunction with ongoing rehabilitation and as business development is presented to them in the historic district. And then updating this plan in the future, at least every 5 years, Main Street, Russellville, and city responsibility. Updates and revisions are already occurring with community interests that are changing and in property uses, such as the possible Veterans Memorial downtown. And that concludes my report on the master plan. Next, we have commission appointments to consider. Appointment of Mr. Marvin Gerlach to fill the remaining term of Matt White on the Intermodal Authority Board. What's the pleasure of the council?
Motion to approve, Mr. Mayor.
Second, Your Honor.
All those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consideration to reappoint Mr. Burt Fleck to the Civil Service Commission. What's your pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Committee reports. Finance Committee, Mr. Horton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Finance Committee met twice. On the 8th, we produced a list of a couple of recommendations 1 and 2 are appropriations. I'd like to handle those separate from item 3. They were basically bookkeeping items, and the Finance Committee recommends those in the form of a motion.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
That same night, Mr. Mayor, we approved and recommended an appropriation for the Reasoner Lane project. There's some ongoing investigation on that. At this time, I'll recognize Mr. Martin Irwin. He's got a recommendation of how we should deal with this.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'm going to amend this motion to remove this back to the Finance Committee for further consideration when it is a more timely matter.
That is the motion.
Yes, sir.
Second if it needs one.
All right. You've heard the motion. All those in favor of that action, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mayor,
Yes.
I have a communication. Is it okay if I excuse myself?
Yes.
Apologize.
Certainly. Understand.
That's all we had for the first meeting. Tonight, we met and passed recommended 2 appropriations, one for police, one for street fund. The Finance Committee recommends both of those now in the form of a motion.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And we also considered the resolution to accept the solid waste bid proposal presented by Waste Management. The Finance Committee recommends that in the form of a motion.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
That is all we have for the council at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Mr. Stuber, do you have any Personnel Committee report?
We have nothing for the council at this time.
Thank you, sir. There is no unfinished business at this time. We will move to new business, which is a discussion of the no-kill Russellville plan relating to animal control. And Mr. Irwin, did you want to introduce that or say anything in that regard?
Yes, sir. We have some members of No Kill Russellville here who are going to give us a brief presentation on what no kill is and just give us some information about it.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Good evening, I'm Denise Knight. Most of you know me. I've covered the city of Albany off and on for a few years. I am also vice president on the board of No Kill Russellville. Megan Heinzman is our president. She's passing out some information to y'all. And we also have with us today the rest of our board. Kathy Soto is our secretary. Melissa Sherman is our communications director. And Jeff Powell back here is our treasurer. We wanted to talk to you a little bit tonight about some implementation of life-saving measures for companion animals in Russellville. I'm still a pretty young person, but I've spent my adult life here in Russellville, and I've opted to stay here when I could have left. Russellville boasts diversity, a rapidly growing four-year university, and a vibrant tourism economy. We have been working hard to brand ourselves as a progressive community that is open for business and poised for growth. Russellville residents are compassionate and generous. We want to be a model in our region. We want to be contemporary with significant changes sweeping our nation and our region relative to the care and sheltering of our companion animals. We want a shelter that reflects our values and not thwarts them. Here in our state, West Memphis, Arkansas, their animal shelter has an annual stray pet intake of 1,200 dogs and cats. They achieve a 91% save rate. There's some other regional shelters listed here on the slides that are achieving 80% to 90% save rates for the intake of their animals. These are municipal shelters. In closer to home in Rogers, we have an 83% save rate for their animals. Fayetteville shelter has a 96% save rate for dogs and 81% for their cat intake. Just down the road in Clarksville, Needy Paws Animal Shelter, which contracts with the cities of Clarksville and Lamar for their animal services needs, saved 86% of the 823 animals they took in last year. And we're going to take a look at Russellville's numbers as well. If you look at Russellville, I have the numbers up here for Russellville and Needy Paws. Some of the information for dogs they had one that escaped and a few that died at the shelter at Clarksville. I didn't have numbers for those in Russellville, so those are missing. You'll see in Russellville's shelter intake, these are for 2013. If you'd like to take them at face value, an intake of 727 dogs with 330 adoptions and 41 returned to owners is only a 50% save rate or live outcome. You'll notice possibly that those numbers don't add up. Although the shelter mentioned an intake of 727 dogs, only 612 dogs are accounted for with the numbers from adoption, euthanasia, and return to owners. That leaves 115 dogs, or roughly 16%, unaccounted for. The records are frustrating as well in regards to cats. These records provided indicate an intake of 437 cats. Adoptions were 169. That's only 38% of the intake has a live outcome. Euthanasia was 334, or 76%. Those numbers add up to more than 100%. Taken together, shelter records indicate 169 adoptions plus 334 euthanized is 503 cats, which is 66 more cats than indicated in shelter records. I shot Mike Vernon an email to ask him about the discrepancy. He said that the dogs' discrepancies were from carryover into 2014, fosters, and dogs transferred to rescues. The cat numbers were off due to kittens born at the shelter. Those animals are seemingly not accounted for in the shelter's current record-keeping system. We believe that absolutely one of the first steps that must be taken is accurate record-keeping and identification of all animals that come in and out of the shelter. Each animal should be assigned a name or number, and each animal's path through the shelter and outcome should be easily documented and identifiable. Here's a couple examples of Clarksville's ID system. They have a picture of each dog, a name, an ID number, and some identifying information and intake information as well. These are easily visible. If you look, these are their ID cards lined up for all the kennels that they have outside, and so you can see all the little ID cards lined up here. Their indoor kennels have the ID cards directly next to the kennel with a picture of the dog or dogs in the kennel right there next to it so you can ID it. As far as I'm aware, there's no current ID system or numbering system currently in place at the Russellville shelter. But besides the record keeping, which I believe is important, on a larger scale, what No Kill Russellville is really about is advocacy for implementation of a no-kill policy for the Russellville Animal Shelter. A recent Associated Press poll reported that 3 out of every 4 citizens think it should be illegal to kill animals unless they are suffering or dangerous. And that is exactly what no-kill is about. It is the idea that healthy and treatable animals should be saved. Opponents will have you believe that sick animals will suffer and healthy animals will languish in the shelter for months under a no-kill philosophy. That is not the case. No-kill advocates believe there are instances where true humane euthanization is appropriate. In the cases of severe illness or injury or true aggression, those are the cases that we believe that is an appropriate outcome for those animals. We don't believe in killing for convenience. Citizens of Russellville are kind, caring, compassionate, and generous. They deserve an animal shelter that reflects their values. We can save healthy and treatable animals, oftentimes thought to be roughly 90% or more of animals entering our shelter, with a proven, documented life-saving plan to bring our animal shelter up to the performance of our neighbor cities. Not only will implementing a no-kill possibly be possible within the shelter's current budget, but there are grants available only for no-kill shelters. Implementing a progressive, compassionate program is also typically associated with an increase in community involvement and donations. A no-kill city ordinance is absolutely necessary to unleash a massive force of public compassion that drives adoptions, volunteer participation, donations, and a civic relief that the enlightened path has been taken. We must take advantage of all resources available to save lives, including increased availability of adoptions and ability to utilize local resources. No Kill Russellville has been working with PetSmart to allow our group to host adoption events at that store. It's just one of the things we're doing to try to expand some adoption availability. But what do we want from you? That's the big question. The first step toward life-saving success is a decision and a commitment to reject kill-oriented ways of doing business. Accountability requires clear definitions, a life-saving plan, and protocols oriented toward preserving life. Each and every animal is an individual, and each deserves individual consideration. Shelter leadership needs to get the community excited to energize people for the task at hand. The community is at the heart of every life-saving effort. They volunteer, they donate, they rescue, they foster, they socialize animals, and they assist with adoptions. After the Nevada Humane Society embraced their life-saving effort, the number of volunteers went from 12 to nearly 8,000, while the number of foster homes increased from roughly a handful to roughly 2,500. By working with people, implementing life-saving programs, and treating each life as precious, a shelter can transform itself. There are a number of programs that are absolutely necessary for such an endeavor to succeed. Some of those mandatory services include working with rescue groups. The shelter director must work to assist the rescue effort and make volunteers feel welcome at the shelter, make the public feel welcome, and work to make their work easier. The shelter must be visited by the public as the adoption center with traffic flow similar to a retail store. Kind of the retail business model is very key to life-saving efforts. Rescue groups are at the heart and soul of a successful life-saving effort. Foster care. Volunteer foster care is a low-cost and often no-cost way of increasing shelter capacity and caring for sick and injured animals, thus saving more lives. This is some of the noblest volunteer work in the community. Volunteer programs. Volunteers are a dedicated army of compassion and the backbone of a successful life-saving effort. They walk dogs, they socialize cats, they assist the potential adopters, and more. Volunteers make the difference between success and failure, and for the animals, life and death. As it is done in hospitals, volunteers will be required to sign liability waivers to protect against litigation by anyone participating in shelter volunteer work. A prescribed observation period could be observed for every animal entering the shelter so as to determine behavior patterns accurately before they come into direct contact with any volunteer. Strict safety protocols will be followed at all times, and volunteers must pass a carefully planned training program. Comprehensive adoption programs, more retail exposure, imaginative marketing, using all forms of social media, more convenient access for the public, off-site venues, and incentives are all used together, not piecemeal, to reinvigorate adoptions at the shelter. The shelter cannot sit and wait for adoptions to appear by themselves. Pet retention is using imaginative ways to work with people to keep companion animals and their owners together. Medical and behavior programs, shelters must keep animals healthy and happy. Thorough vaccination, handling, cleaning, socialization, and care policies to prevent illness. Public relations and community involvement. Marketing, public relations, which includes educational programs in schools, partnering with community groups increases adoptions. Volunteers and donations. A strong partnership with the local media is key to ensuring a continued focus on saving lives. High volume spay and neuter. More than 90% of shelter pets are unaltered because of the cost barrier. By funding affordable procedures, shelter intake is reduced significantly. Trap, neuter, and release is treatment to reduce feral cat populations without euthanasia. Adoptions to farms adds to the life-saving of feral cats. Proactive redemptions are one of the most overlooked opportunities. Increasing the number of lost animals returned to their families. Wider use of social media to post lost animals on the internet, and animal control officers are the key to pet reunification and have the ability to lead the reduction of shelter intake, consequently reducing the cost. That's a lot of that involves, when working out in the field to get the animal returned home before they're actually ever brought to the shelter. The final key to life-saving efforts are one that is significant because it's something that shows up in every single piece of research you will see. The final element, and most important of all, is the compassionate director. The director uses all the elements of a compassionate, comprehensive, life-saving plan, which are the mandatory services we just went through. The director holds staff accountable for results and high standards of customer service. They must be dedicated to principles of saving 90% of dogs and cats entering the shelter and seeing that they are well cared for in the process. The director should reject tired cliches such as too many animals, not enough homes, and they should seek out and assist rescue groups that are qualified and effective in creating adoption opportunities. When you start saving the lives of companion animals, word gets around fast. This is how adoptions open up, fosters open up, volunteers want to be part of what you're doing, and donations become available. When the public finds out that the adoption center, formerly the shelter, does not kill, it becomes a favorite destination. The Allegheny County, Maryland Animal Shelter, aptly called the Shelter of Hope, found this out when they implemented their life-saving system. There's an amusement park atmosphere at the shelter. Kids bring treats, they pet the cats, they walk the dogs. It's a festive, almost joyous atmosphere, and the adoptions have increased, bringing revenue, cutting costs, and saving lives. The same was reported in Reno, Nevada. Before their no-kill initiative, a community survey found most people rated the shelter as poor over a wide range of animal care issues. 2 years later, after launching their initiative, they did a public survey that found out that 93% of respondents supported the no-kill initiative. 95% gave the shelter positive ratings on adoption efforts and results. 93% said the shelter had a positive image, and 78% said the shelter had good customer service. Think about those numbers, look at them up on the board if you want to. If we did that survey in Russellville today, what do you think those numbers would be? The fundamental lesson from the communities with a 90% save rate is that the choices made by shelter directors determine whether animals live or die. In Washoe County, Nevada, local shelters began a life-saving initiative that saw adoptions increase by 80% and deaths decrease by 51% in 1 year, despite taking in more than 15,000 dogs and cats. In Austin, Texas, they take in 23,000 animals a year and are saving 91%. There are no valid excuses why our community cannot do the same if we choose to. In closing, we would like to work with the council to develop an amendment to the city's animal control ordinance that provides for that no animal should be euthanized unless a veterinarian deems euthanizing a necessary to ensure the public health, safety, and welfare. An impounded animal that is sick or injured may be euthanized if no viable, humane alternative remains. I'd also like to mention that one of the country's leading no-kill advocates will be in Northwest Arkansas on August 23rd, screening a 1-hour film, followed by a 1-hour discussion of how to implement no-kill philosophy in your community. Those events, tickets to those events are $5, and No Kill Russellville will offer to pay not only that cost, but a gas stipend as well for any shelter employee or member of the council who would like to attend. And that's all I have today.
Thank you. There were a couple of people who that signed up to speak in regard to this item. Although, do those individuals want to speak at this time? Yes. Okay. Molly Corbin? You'll have 3 minutes. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Molly Corbin, and I have lived here.
Speak into the microphone.
I'm sorry. My
That's
name
all
is
right.
Molly Corbin, and we've owned commercial property in Polk County for several years, and I own property in Yale County. I have a rescue. We are Arkansas Information Resources, and I have worked with Life Vernon and the city shelter for several years, and they've always been professional. They've always worked with us on saving as many as we could. Humane euthanasia is a very gray area. Nobody wants to kill dogs. But the fact of the matter is that the city of Russellville does not have a mandatory spay-neuter law. You just about have to have that to have a no-kill. And anything that would help get to that situation would be awesome. I just don't know the capabilities exist right now for that to happen. Everybody needs to improve. You know, there's room for everything to get better. And I hope that we can someday get to a no-kill situation. But the reality is that when you have 2 dogs that are black, you have 2 adoptable dogs. But when you have 12, you've got 10 dogs that most likely will not find a home. And that's reality. When you have people that do not alter their animals, and you have a breeding pet population, it is very hard to maintain a no-kill situation. I mean, nobody wants to kill dogs, but it takes resources, and it takes taxpayer money. And everyone will say they want no-kill. I mean, like I said, that's obvious. But do they want to support a system that will allow for there to be a no-kill? And that's kind of your question. And we move dogs all the way across the nation. I mean, I work with several different breed and all paws type rescues. And it does happen. You know, you can work and move dogs, but it takes an educated, willing staff. And I've found that in the Russellville shelter. And I appreciate them. And they've saved, last year we moved over 200 dogs into rescue. And several of them did come from this area. And like I said, through the vets, through a very good system, we were allowed to save them at no cost to the taxpayer. It can be done. And that's, like I said, I appreciate my shelter.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Corbin. Mr. Vernon, do you want to? Okay, all right. Council, any comments?
I did just want to mention, and I appreciate Ms. Corbin's response, but I did want to make sure you don't forget that Needy Paws and Clarksville contracts with, they are the animal control, so they have, for Clarksville, they have to take in those dogs, and they do the same for Clarksville, for Lamar. They operate on a $200,000 budget, which is about $100,000 less than we do, and they still saved 86% of that dogs that, of the animals that came in, which is significantly higher than in Russellville.
Anything else?
Of course,
That,
you know, if I
Mr.
may,
Stuber, yes, go ahead.
you know, one of the problems in my mind that we have, we're the only city in Polk County that has an animal shelter. The county has none either. And, you know, there's a tremendous amount of dogs and cats from the county that makes their way to our shelter. Now, you know, I don't know the statistics of these cities you're touting as pretty well no kill. You know, I don't know if they have an influx from the county coming in, or if they only take animals from their city or their town. But, you know, I know where I live, there's constantly dogs coming up around there that are just dogs out running around. Well, we have cats all over the place, and you know, no one in the neighborhood seems to own those cats. There's a few cats that owns, the rest of them they're there. You know, quite frankly, I'd like to see them gone. And you know, that's one thing. You know, the city of Russellville provides a service to its residents, and you know, if I call Mike, or John Doe calls Mike, or calls the animal shelter and says, you know, there's a stray dog out here, or there's cats out here, you know, they have to respond. They can't say we're full. You know, it's But, you know, hey, I wish we could have an animal shelter that was no-kill. I mean, I love animals, but you can't be overrun by them. Thank you, Mayor.
One
Thank you,
short
Mr.
comment, Your Honor. And Garland touched on this, but one of the keys is going to be getting Pope County Court to pass an ordinance controlling animals somehow or another, and so far they haven't addressed it. We'll have to have the cooperation of Pope County. And, you know, that may be a difficult hill to climb, because we do have the only facility in the county, and that includes, you know, London, Atkins, possible Dover, Hector, which is the lion's share of the population of Polk County. So Polk County Court will have to come on board to some degree. Otherwise, we're alone. So,
Anybody else?
I just make one quick statement. I was going through and listening to the presentation and looking through the document that's provided. You know, it seems like it's almost a chicken and egg kind of deal. You pass the ordinance, and then they will come. And I guess I would challenge you that you come first. You know, put these processes in place, get these volunteers, and get these things going, and then come and say, you know, we've got a process in place where we've shown that we can make this work, and then let's talk about it, because it's kind of a big leap, I guess, for the city to say, you know, if we pass this ordinance, then all this stuff is going to come into play, and it's not going to be an issue. So that's just a little bit of a concern I have.
Thank you. Any other,
I'm going to say one more thing, then I'm going to shut up about this. But, you know, I may have misunderstood what's been said, but it's kind of like someone is maybe suggesting that the employees of the animal shelter is not doing right, okay?
I'm glad you picked up on that, Mr. Stuber.
And quite frankly, I'm liaison to the animal shelter. And in the course of my time, I visit that place frequently. And I do not think, I know, there's not one employee over there that enjoys euthanating animals. You know, thank you.
I think that was well said. Anything else to come before this group? No, that's the end of the discussion. Anything else?
motion to adjourn?
Thank you very much. We are adjourned.